Hello, I'm Amanda,
And I'm Mack,
and welcome to iCube After Hours. Are you clocked out?
because we are.
So join us as we dive into what we do here at iCube. Mac, what is it we do at iCube?
Well, that's the thing. Not a lot of people really know, and that's why we have this podcast. We want to shed light on what our department does and how we do it.
Join us as we sit down with our fellow innovators and iCube team members. Mac, what time is it?
It's 4:31.
Well, let's get started. So this is your fault. Why are we doing this podcast?
We've needed it for a while. We do a lot of really cool stuff and work with really cool people all over campus, all over the state, and in some instances all over the country, as you know. But no one here really knows what we do. It's kind of shrouded in mystery behind those glass doors. So this is our chance to bring people on, talk to them directly, and have them tell their story in a way that the public can consume.
And hopefully it'll make sense at the end, because it's still difficult for me to explain to people what we do. My parents don't have a clue.
Oh, I don't even understand.
So what is your background with technology, to start with?
I've always kind of been a little bit of a geek. The internet didn't even exist in its modern form until I was in about fifth grade, but I really took to it pretty quick. I've loved working with computers. I've always been sort of an early adopter of technology. So in about 2002, 2003, I started working my way up the ranks of a website called Friendster, which is not very commonly known. And I was doing a little bit of programming for them. Then another company started up that was really in the social atmosphere called MySpace. So I started writing code for them, eventually made it to the front page of MySpace for a few years, and they started paying me. And I thought, well, that's the coolest thing in the world. You can get paid for creating code out of nothing. You know, it's just your brain making you money. So worked for MySpace for a little bit, got to work with some really cool clients, and it became addicting. About that time I was looking for college, so I came to Tennessee Tech and met Michael Akins and Kevin Liska, who hopefully we'll have on one of these later episodes to talk to and hear their story. They ended up hiring me, and they kept sweetening the pot. Every time we got to the end of a project, we had one better, and that was in probably 2008, 2009 when I started here. And when we started the iCube, it just kind of threw gas on the fire, and we've been all over ever since. So what about you? You have a pretty extensive background with technology.
Well,
what's your story?
I am an English major, secondary education English major, but I love video games, and I love anime, and for some reason those go hand in hand. And I always just wanted to work in video games, and like this, there was like a big piece of me that's like, okay, if I get this English degree, if I'm in education, well, I'll have that steady job, but one day I'll be able to write scripts for video games, and that is like the true dream. And I would tell my parents that, and they'd be like, no, you need a job that makes real money. So teaching. So I've always wanted to do something with technology, but then when I started at iCube, I was actually in the Ollie Otter mascot program, which I know we'll talk about at some point. But I was a mascot at a radio station, got hired here from my mascotting experience. And eventually we started doing virtual reality, and I was just nosy enough to bother people into letting me be a part of it, and found like a knack for, an annoying knack to others, I'm sure, for like organizing and talking to the clients and making sure our artists and programmers didn't beat each other up. And that just kind of became my life with technology. So then I got involved in VR, and love VR, because it's basically just video games amplified. So that's how I got really in tech. So I don't really do a lot of tech. I do miss MySpace, where I could copy and paste like backgrounds and stuff. But other than that, it's a lot of like being near technology, I guess.
Since you started here, how many VR simulations would you say you've made? How many simulations or have been made under your purview?
Well, I count full projects, like big projects. And I would say like, I could name like maybe like 15, 20 that like, oh yeah, I remember those. But if you talk to our current artist, who's also like in charge of everything, she's like, there's 76 projects in our docket. And I'm like, oh gosh. And I remember we do have like little spin-offs, like little like one-off projects that you just kind of forget about. But you know, we've got about like 15 big ones, projects, I think, that people would recognize.
Then some standalones that get uploaded to the store.
Yes.
It's quite a bit.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite project that we've done?
Ooh. I really liked Find the Fire. When you were working on Find the Fire, like that was sort of a culmination of everybody's efforts. So art was working alongside engineering really well, and I think that sums up the space as good as anything could. I wish I'd seen it go further. I wish it was on, downloadable app stores today.
We were a little ahead of the technology trying to do the multiplayers in VR when the consumer headsets were barely available.
I think you were one of the first I'd heard about where you could play multiple player VR. At the time, I remember we had brought in our own router to run the network off of because Tech's network couldn't handle it. So we were doing like almost like a LAN for VR. That was pretty wild.
And I remember we all had to press the enter button at the same time, like on all the laptops. That was fun. Those were the fun days.
Yeah. And for people at home, that application allowed you to start at different points in this fictitious world, and the goal was to find the fire, to everybody gather around a campfire, and you could go on little side quests, and there were things that were good for you and things that weren't so good for you. You want to talk a little bit about that?
And it was all a metaphor, and those are the best VR projects, if you ask me. No, I mean, we do a lot, and we do a lot of like real life kind of scenarios, but my favorite are always the metaphors, probably the English background. So it was all like kind of like a secondary education for opioids and addiction, and it was talking about like bystander behavior and how to like kind of like peer pressure, like not falling to peer pressure, but like helping each other all find this solution together. And we've done several metaphorical projects like that. But what I was going to say, like my favorite project, I love the VR projects, love them obviously, but the tweeting eel. We got to work on that for the Tennessee Aquarium at Electric, Miguel, Watson, all that. But we got to write some puns, and I just love the puns. So it's I love when our office gets to be fun and creative.
And I think that's the aquarium's most popular Twitter social media account right now. Is an eel that every time he gets electrified and sends off a big burst of electricity, he automatically sends a tweet from the database that originally you had populated with puns, and that is pretty cool. It's very digital, analog connected. That is wild. And I think your English background is great too, because the hardest part of all of this is telling the story. So with English at your beck and call, you can kind of tell each of the stories of each of these projects rather than just rely on the very technical presentation of, hey, this works, but what's it really saying? I
like that.
Yeah.
I like that description.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my degree. That's awesome. What are some of the biggest obstacles you went through with iCube? I think a lot, but
it's always you always have that panic when you don't know how to do something, when somebody requests something that's just come out. We're kind of in that realm right now where we're dealing a lot with AI, and AI is it's so new. Nobody was using it in November, and it's May now, and everybody's using it. It's just taking the world by storm. So when you're expected to understand it, adopt it first, and then expand it so that you're the first person to do things with it, there's pressure, and you have to be able to learn fast and respond fast. And we've gone through that with VR. We went through that with AR. It's rinse and repeat. So you kind of get used to that uncomfortable feeling, and it's a little bit fun. What do you think? What's the biggest struggle you've had?
I mean, that was definitely one. The technology kind of needed to catch up with our ideas, basically. But I would say a lot of it is due to the fact that we're a grant-funded office. So we are constantly needing to find new projects. And I just, there's something exciting about that. And when you get, a multi-year project, it's like, yay, that's awesome. We're sustainable for a couple years.
Right.
But you're always having to look. And in the one way, it's like, that's awesome because I love going through different projects. I don't want to do the same thing every day. But it is also, a little nerve-wracking, sleepless nights sometimes. So I love that, but I do think it's difficult, that always looking, always searching.
One thing that I think we do a great job with, not so much an obstacle, because I don't think we failed anybody just yet, is working with the students here at Tech. That's super rewarding for me. And they're just some of the brightest people you've ever had interactions with, and they're able to figure things out so fast. So it's pretty cool to be able to teach them and sort of step back and let them work their magic and then see what they go on to do after college. So that's probably one of my favorite parts about working here is just seeing that knowledge expand and grow so quickly. So in the future, what's next? I think everybody should know this, but you just recently became director of the iCube.
Yes.
So that's a pretty big. That's a pretty big future change.
Yeah. I hope I don't blow it up. That would be neat.
I hope so too.
That's the goal. It's like I just want everything. I want our community connection, like our office, like all of our coworkers. I want to keep what we have, but I do think there are like areas we could like start pursuing just with like kind of like the leaders in the office becoming more leadery, to be very Englishy. I think we can kind of like look for more opportunities. We can provide more services, and even like just with this, I think people knowing what we do on campus might inspire some new projects, might inspire some new students.
Some collaboration around campus.
Yeah, and I think I think that'd be good. We have done projects with people on campus. Maybe we'll do a couple
I love those. Yeah.
Of these with them, but
those are always fun too because those come to us out of a result of a need where somebody says, "Hey, I have this idea to make learning easier or learning better." We had that with the chemistry apps. A fantastic idea. So yeah, I agree. That's awesome.
And that is another thing I'd like to change our iCube. Right now we're Imagine, Inspire, and Innovate. I'd really like us to be iCube, creative solutions to traditional problems. Like I just want that on all the doors. Yeah. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think the future is? Just yeah. Also,
I love the slogan too.
I need the feedback.
I agree. We could do a lot more. We could get a lot bigger. The world's our oyster, and I think there's a lot of room for expanded capacity because right now, we're maintaining what our deliverables are. We get a set number of grant dollars to do things, but I think if we get bigger, we can handle that growth. We've grown a lot since 2016.
Yeah.
We've taken on a whole lot more responsibility, but so far we haven't dropped the ball. So I think, if we keep growing in the right direction.
Knock on all the wood.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I think that's like, what are we going to talk about on this podcast? Like, we kind of still need to narrow it down because we have like so many projects
and so many people.
But
go back to the story aspect. I think that's what I'm looking forward to is meeting the people behind some of the projects in our office and, their constituents, the people that they're doing the projects for will be really fun to hear why they do what they do. Because, a lot of it is government money and it's hard to understand for people that don't deal with that, deal with grants to see why we're doing things. But what are you looking forward to with that?
I love the people we work with. Like, I mean, our office fluctuates so much. We always have new projects. It's, grant funded. We're always like on our toes. Like, what are we going to be doing? But I feel like if we didn't like the people we worked with, it would be awful. So I'm really looking forward to getting to like shine that spotlight on some of our coworkers that are doing amazing things. Yeah. And then like future students coming can be inspired by them being like, oh, I want to work on that project with that person. And I'm really looking forward to having kind of this series for like later to look back on, like if we ever get Kevin on here to talk and then having, like a time capsule kind of thing.
Yeah. Kevin is our executive director and he helped form the center somewhere around 1989.
30 plus years ago. Yeah.
So he literally watched the technological revolution happen and has been surfing that wave of new shiny things ever since. So he'll tell you about the first Pentium processors and first color printers. Mark my words when he comes on. So,
yes.
We have some really good people we work with really great stories, and I think it'd be cool to have the people on the other side of the projects talk to, to tell us, how it's impacted their lives and how we've made ripples in their different industries. So
yeah, and I think it'll be what I love is like, oh, I didn't know anything about this, and now it's like my life. So I'm excited about that, especially with like the like addiction crisis and traffic safety. And it's like you don't even think about these things. You didn't, and now it's like you can't do anything without thinking of all of these new things you're learning. Like none of us are really experts in our field until we take on these projects, and
then
I
you
think
become
that's
the
cool too.
expert.
Yes, yes. People are looking to you like, wait, how do I do this? And it's like, oh, I don't know.
And we have some pretty big projects that I think people at home will be familiar with. I'm sure they've seen Click or Ticket, Booze It or Lose It.
Yeah.
And the opioid crisis, everybody's familiar with and affected by that. So seeing the governmental response and the people side of it on the other side, so knowing why decisions are made and how those dollars are chosen to be spent is, it's sort of Parks and Rec-y, but it's interesting.
Yeah, that's the next thing we'll do. We'll do an office documentary,
Yeah.
mockumentary.
Noah, are you listening?
Next steps.
Yeah. Yeah. So glad to do this. Glad it's after hours. That way Amanda can freely cuss. And
yes, that's it.
Noah has his beep finger ready, right?
Yes. That's important.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's it for our first episode. Ready for the next one. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really,
hopefully we'll be able to shine some light on what we do and be a little bit more understandable. I'll make my parents listen so they can know what I do. Yeah. They still think I'm a mascot, I think. So
yeah. Did you? What was the mascot you were before?
A frog at Wivik, WIVK. So
you still got it.
Yes. So from frog to otter to director.
Yeah.
Yes.
What
a straight path.
Should write a book.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you came away from this episode with a brighter view on what iCube is and what our amazing team does.
Until next time, stay safe.